Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Janine McGowan, and this is a Flosstube about cross stitch, and today, giant bumblebees. So, good to have you here. First on the list, we're jumping right into stitching in action, and I have several to share today, so thank you in advance to those who've sent in their pieces for sharing. First off, Moonlight Sampler, and this one is stitched by Carolyn W. She used 32 count Lakeside Vintage Fawn, and mostly the called for threads, but made a few changes. And I love seeing Moonlight Sampler in particular on different fabrics because it's always fun to see how it comes out. And I've seen a lot of fun treatments from different stitchers with thread changes and color changes that I appreciate. So thank you, Carolyn, for sharing that with us. Quilting Bee is next up. This one was stitched by Mary S. and her Instagram name is @StitchingEpiphanies. I love the way she adjusted it for a round finish, and I really love the frame that she chose for this one. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that with us. Next up, Baking Squirrel. We have an embarrassment of riches this time with so many fun things to share. Baking Squirrel by Lisa G. She did this. She's Forest City Stitching on Flosstube, and she made a cute little pillow. I've got front and back photos here for a stitching pen pal. So well done, Lisa. Baking Squirrel was a free chart initially in one of the cookbooks for Nashville Market and is available on the website now just as a freebie. So quick stitch, fun to see. Thank you, Lisa. Next up, The Gentle Rain by Sarah W. Some of you may have, like me, been following along with Sarah as she stitched this up online, and it's great to see the final product. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that with us. Sarah used 32 count Nougat linen from Zweigart, which I don't have any of and I love, so I think I need to go hunting for some of that for future releases. So thank you again, Sarah, for sharing that. And then finally today, we have Halloween Squirrel, stitched by Erin H. She's got a fully finished piece here with a great frame. I love that. And she did this on 16 count parchment Aida. So thank you, all of you, for sharing these. I'm gonna get my video recorded and then I'll have them all up on the website for you to look at more closely. And as always, if you have a blue flower design that you've stitched you want to share, send it to me. I'll get it up on the website and the Flosstube. And if you are stitching a blue flower design and want to look at some of the different options, Stitching in Action on the website is the place to go. So thank you, everyone that shared that. Normally, I would talk about what I'm stitching, but I haven't made any progress on the Pilsner Memorial Sampler since the last video because I've been working on models. So hopefully next video I'll have some more to report. We're making really good progress on the piece overall because it's very large, but there are some times when I don't get to work on personal stitching as much. However, that leads me right into the stash spotlight because I have been stitching models on this fabulous fabric called Bird's Eye View, and this is from Seraphim. It's 40 count linen, but I've talked before, and I know other designers have as well, about how you get this sort of seasonal dissonance where it's spring and summer in your yard, and yet all the designs you're working on are fall and Halloween, and whatever the season is, you're always off a little bit. But one of the things I really love about this fabric, it's got light and dark colors in it. It's got beautiful deep bluey green colors and beautiful brown colors. And it to me kind of bridges the gap between summer and fall. And so I did end up using it for 2 new releases, little ones, for the Needlework Expo that's happening in August. So it's kind of crossing the border for me between summer and fall. But it's just, it's a lovely fabric. I have enjoyed stitching on it, and now I need to get some more since I've used everything for models. So I have to put in another order. On to the world around. This past, well, a couple days ago, I saw the biggest bumblebee I have ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it was a honker. It was like this big. And I got a little video, which I've put down below. You can get an idea of the scale of the bumblebee because of the more normal sized bee that's trying to get in on that flower and being completely ignored. So I was curious about this huge bumblebee and I looked it up. It looks like it is actually called the Nevada bumblebee. It's a native bee species here. It lives up and down the west coast, far north into Canada. And it's known not only for its very large size, but for having a particularly long tongue, which makes sense given that a lot of the native flowers here in the high desert and in the mountains have long tube shapes, so monardas and penstemons and things like that. So I was very excited to see this, and I'm looking forward to getting some more of those kinds of flowers into our garden so that we can feed those native bees. Now, in general, bumblebees, just backing up briefly, are very good pollinators. They're very large, and so they beat their wings very quickly, up to 130 beats per second. And the combination of their size and the fast wing beating means that they buzz their whole body, which means that they essentially shake the entirety of the flower that they're working on. And so they shake loose a lot more pollen than would come if they were just collecting it the way other bees may do. So very good pollinators, very important to keep in our system. They, like other bumblebees, nest on or near the ground, underground. They even use discarded rodent tunnels. So I happen to have some discarded rodent tunnels under the pussy willow, all set up and ready for hopefully some nice big Nevada bumblebees to move in and make a home. So it would be my job to then provide them with lots of lovely tubular flowers for those very long tongues. So actually, one of the reasons I'm very casual today is that I'm going to the nursery after I finish this to pick up some more native plants if I can. I have a lot of native plant seeds that I was able to order, but they won't be able to start until next year. So I wanted to see if I could find some native species for this year, even if they're just annuals, to kind of keep those bees happy and lure them to my yard. Now, the second photograph that I put underneath after the little video is actually from a website that did a very interesting article about bees learning, and the more scientists study, the more they understand how good bees can be at problem solving and other things that we haven't necessarily associated with insects. So I'll put the link in the comments or in the notes. If you want to take a read of that, you can see how quickly bumblebees have been able to learn new behaviors, and yeah, gives us a little more appreciation for them than we even had already. Next up, last video I asked about your least favorite foods, and it was very interesting. There were several things that recurred multiple times. Okra specifically was a very common least favorite, and people almost always mention disliking the texture of it. One of the things I really enjoy is that even though it's one person's least favorite, another person loves it, and so it's just a reminder how much we can appreciate our differences, and even in our marriages where sometimes our spouse loves the thing that we can't stand and vice versa, so we can really just trade between us and both be happy. Always nice. So the question this video, now that it's summer, for some of us maybe feels a little bit slower paced. It may not actually be, but I think having more daylight sometimes makes it feel like we have more time, even if we don't. But the question then is, now that we have this illusion of more time, and I particularly like to read in my free time if I can, what is a book that you really enjoy? I'm not going to ask for favorite book because that would be really difficult to pick a single favorite book, but what is a book that you're enjoying that's teaching you right now, something you didn't know, that you've loved forever and just like to keep rereading, something that's new that you're very excited about, something that's just giving you a little bit of escapist fun that you need? I would love to hear from you about your book that is particularly fun right now. And doing my bit first, I think a book that I've been thinking about a lot recently is a perennial favorite of mine, and I tend to read it every year. I haven't read it yet this year, so it's probably time again, but it's called The Jane Austen Education, and it's by a professor who was essentially forced to read Jane Austen in graduate school, thinking that he was far too macho to enjoy that, and sort of the life lessons that he learned through that experience and that have carried forward to his life. So lots of fun for me. I look forward to hearing from you what books you're enjoying at the moment or have enjoyed in the past. And yeah, let me know. Best thing this video. I have a release in Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher this summer. It's a continuation of the collective noun series that I started in the spring. And the one for spring was A Wisdom of Wombats. You can see there's our little group of wise reading wombats. So the one for the summer is A Parade of Elephants. And you may remember I talked about the fact that, oh, I'm going backwards here, that Liz Matthews also did some collective nouns for market, and we independently were on the same kick. So this is just a tiny little one with 3 elephants, little parade, and a fun little finish. So if you're looking for Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine, you can get it through shops and online, and that little stitch will be in there if you're interested. Next issue I'm particularly excited about. It's fall themed. So I will be able to share that in another few months. Giveaway the last video, copy here, was this chart, the name of which I cannot pronounce, but it essentially means this female handyman, shepherd, handy person. Anyway, I'm just better off not saying it. But the comment was including sheep, and the winner is Char J57. I'll put that in there. So thank you all for playing. Now this time, hello precious, we have this fun chart from Owl Forest Embroidery. It's called Visiting a Fairy Tale, although to me it just really looks like summer. And I love particularly the way the clouds have been charted up at the top. You've got sun and moon and fish and trees and a whiny greyhound. And to go with that, got this beautiful set of pins from Puntini Puntini. If I can get the glare off of them, that's better. Of these beautiful yellow flowers. So if you would like to win that, be sure in your comments to include the word sun. And we'll get that off to you. It'll be a fun little stitch for summer to enjoy this beautiful time of year. Not much for announcements this week. There's an extra long puppy video at the end. I think it's almost 4 minutes. And I hope you enjoy it. I am off to go to the nursery and get some more bee-friendly plants. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. I hope you have a lovely weekend. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. Bye.